Mental illness. Too many people in Brooklyn and across New York City are engaging in behaviors that are attributed to mental disorders. How they treat their family, the crimes they commit. What is being done about this, and what can you do? Joining me to discuss this is New York Congresswoman Yvette Clarke. Also in this program, Camella Fairweather will have a young academic achiever, a Brooklyn student, as her guest. But first, mental illness and crime. Congresswoman Clarke, welcome to Brooklyn 45.
Thank you for having me once again, Sam. It's great to be back with you after somewhat of a hiatus.
Yes, we can blame COVID for that. Hopefully COVID is over. Mental health crisis. We've been hearing that the mental health crisis is leading to violence. How do you respond to that?
Well, let me say that, I don't know how much we can fully attribute to mental illness. Clearly, crime has always been with us, as well as mental illness. But while the challenges with mental health that our city is confronting are creating more unhoused individuals and certainly contributing to some crimes, it's paramount that we understand that it's important that this is a matter of healthcare and not a matter of law enforcement. So there's work that needs to be done on the preventative side as opposed to the law enforcement side. I think that oftentimes we can attribute incorrectly some of the behaviors that we're seeing by being sort of, what do you call them, Monday morning quarterbacks around certain behaviors that we may observe in those who may have committed a crime. I think it's important that as a city, as a state, and as a nation, that we seriously delve into what is taking place across our country and what behaviors actually can be attributed to mental illness. So I'm a bit hesitant to blame all of the crime that we're experiencing or the spikes in crime on mental illness. I think the mentally ill are challenged as it is, and then to be stigmatized as criminal or as violent does not help us to discern how to best treat these individuals.
One of the well-known New York companies, Starbucks, they have announced that they're closing their Canal Street location. I'm sure you've heard about that. And they've blamed that decision on crime, on what they perceive to be a mental health crisis. And they said it's not good for the employees. And then recently we've heard about the Coney Island mother who drowned, or who allegedly drowned her 3 children. And then this story we all heard, this machete-wielding woman who chopped this man. And all 3 of these situations are related to mental health. What do you say about situations such as this, and how should we respond when these events occur?
Well, clearly, there are 3 different sets of occurrences. One is a business decision being made by Starbucks in a unique location in the city, where I'm sure a number of undomiciled individuals congregate, don't know for sure that they have mental illness, but that does not mitigate the threat that individuals may feel with their presence being there. Starbucks has to make whatever business decisions they feel is in their best interest. It's certainly not in the best interest of their employees that will now have to face unemployment. So I don't know whether we're curing the situation or circumstances for employees there, but it was a business decision. On the other hand, we have a case where a mother clearly disturbed, drowned her children, or at least allegedly has drowned her children. She is now being dealt with in our criminal justice system, and that will determine her guilt. But it's my understanding that there were some communications with her and some indications that she was disturbed, but she did not receive the type of help that she needed to sort of mitigate those circumstances. There seemed to be some signals that were made to the city that these children were in danger. Yet the response was not met with, there was no response. That unfortunately, it looks as though she has, through her disturbance, killed her children. And then the machete-wielding woman. It's clear to me that someone within these families had to have known about the instability of the individuals that have been identified in these particular circumstances. And we have an obligation and responsibility to make mental health services available, freely available to all New Yorkers. It should be as available as attending to our physical health. And we know that people are challenged with tending to their physical health. It's even more so a challenge when you're dealing with mental health. We've got to destigmatize the need for seeking help when someone has demonstrated some instability in terms of how they're acting, how they're behaving, so that we can get people the help that they need. At the federal level, we have acknowledged that there's been a spike since the pandemic in the number of people who have reached that point of instability, and have made resources available at the national level to our states to really address this. This is not just a New York phenomenon. This is taking place across the country, and I would venture to say around the globe. When you're forced into a situation like we are just emerging from with COVID-19, the shutdown of the economy, the isolation that was involved. If you were at a tipping point in terms of your mental health, that may have been the point at which you went over the tipping point. So we've got a lot of work to do in this space, Sam. And I'm not prepared to call individuals who have mental health challenges criminals. I'm prepared to provide the resources, the education and information to the people of our city, to the people of Brooklyn, so that they can get the help that they need. And I think we need to start with our children, younger folks who may exhibit certain behaviors that we sort of push aside and don't give a lot of credence to, that ultimately develop into more emotionally disturbed or mental health challenges as they grow older. We've got a lot of work to do in this space.
There's a bill. I'm not sure if it is, and I should have researched that. I'm not sure if it is Congress or if it is in the city itself that would require the city to fund the placement of these mental health professionals on site at homeless shelters with children, following up to what you said earlier about having to be responsible to our children and pay attention to our children. But what is your take on the bill or the need for such a bill?
Well, it sounds to me like that is a municipal piece of legislation. We at the federal level would not prescribe specifically how to manage our mental health services. We would provide that funding to the states, and they would provide it to the municipalities. But let me say that I think there's a space for us to expand the aperture on mental health professionals, social workers, individuals that can work with our families to identify the behaviors or any harm that can be, a potential harm that can be in a household. And I would not want to say that, those who are in shelters are more prone than those who live in neighborhoods and other housing circumstances to a mental health disruption or a health disruption. I think it's important that we make provision wherever people reside, whether they're homeless, living in apartment buildings, living in public housing, in affluent families. Everyone needs to have access to the resources to address any lapse in health, and in particular in mental health, which has not been something that we, I believe as a society, have managed well over the years. And it's time for us to move into the 21st century, provide the personnel with the background and expertise to help us navigate what has become something I think that has been highlighted, particularly in light of this pandemic.
Thrive NYC, previous mayor de Blasio, that was one of the highlights of his term. And he said that he wanted that mental health program to keep these criminals and particularly keep mental health individuals, people suffering from these mental issues, keep them out of the prison system. How do you feel about this Thrive NYC? I saw you shaking your head.
I recall very clearly that it was the First Lady, Charlene McCray, who was really a forceful advocate for this program, Thrive NYC. I think, it was an important initiative on the part of the city, something new that most New Yorkers had not had access to previously. I'm not certain that our current mayor has continued that program, but we need to be able to put something in place that we can rely on as a city to access mental health services. And I know that Thrive program came with a hotline that people could call so that when they witness, again, a lapse in someone's mental health, they have professionals that they can interface with to address those issues. And I really don't want us to conflate those who we see with criminal behavior with individuals with mental health challenges. Not everyone, and certainly not the majority of folks who are struggling with mental health issues act out in a violent way. And I think it's important that we not stigmatize mental health because then it makes it even more difficult for people to seek the help that they need. They may conflate it themselves with seeing themselves as being a criminal. No, that's not the case. What we're saying is those who intentionally go out to do harm to others should be dealt with through our criminal statutes. Those who have mental health lapses need health care. They need to have access to mental health services so that we can help them to navigate their way to wellness again. It's just so very important that we not conflate the two because what happens is an overreaction from the criminal justice system, and then you end up with people incarcerated that really just need help with their mental health, and then are put into a situation where they're not receiving that help, but their condition continues to get worse. And we're trying to get to a wellness stage with people in our society.
I want to come back and talk about that remedy stage and some of the resources that your office make available. But what are some of the factors that youth believe affect the mental health issues today?
You know, they vary. I can't go directly into, from a scientific standpoint, there are individuals who just biochemically, have a lapse. There are those who have reached, who have been traumatized in some form or fashion that has altered their mental capacity. I'm not a mental health professional, but we know that there are a whole host of reasons why people end up, with a mental illness. And I think that we need to leave it to the professionals to really diagnose those individuals and determine the appropriate treatment for those individuals. It's nothing new. Unfortunately, over time, we've never really professionalized the way in which we engage people with mental illness. We went from what they called insane asylums to out treatment and nothing in between. And so I think that this is the 21st century. We have passed at the federal level the Bipartisan Safer Communities Act, which provides funds and various programs and grants and activities to promote mental health, access to behavioral and mental health services. So we've made a major commitment at the federal level to provide to states the opportunity to get grants and to stand up a very robust behavioral and mental health programs. And I hope that the city of New York, the state of New York, is availing themselves of that. There's also the new mental health grant program from the Department of Education, which provides for school-based mental health services and provides competitive grants to states and educational agencies, local educational agencies, to be able to get a number of credentialed school-based mental health service providers. So we recognize at the federal level that it's time for us to provide an equal amount of support to one's mental health, as well as we have strived to do with respect to physical health. It's critical. And again, I think that the pandemic has exacerbated what has been a problem in our society, but has been crystallized in light of the shutdown and what that has done in the lives of all Americans.
We've got 30 seconds left. These two programs that you talked about just now, how do we get information about these two programs?
Well, they're both, they're federal programs, so anyone can go online and look up the Bipartisan Safer Communities Act. It's a law that was passed this year to provide these services, and the new mental health grant program. If you go to the Department of Education and search for the new mental health grant program, you'll be able to gain access to that information as well. At the federal level, we do not administer programs from our offices. The funding goes to the states, and the states then administer the programs to their municipalities. So if anyone is interested, my office can certainly do the research and give you guidance as to how you would access it through either the state or the city. But we don't do direct grant making at the federal level.
Okay, well, we'll put links to these two programs on our website. I really want to thank you, Congresswoman Clarke, for being on Brooklyn 45. We have to continue this discussion about mental illness. We want to talk about mental illness and unemployment, mental illness and the housing situation, the housing crisis that we're in. And we're going to invite you back when we talk about those issues. But again, thank you for being on Brooklyn 45.
Thank you for having me. It's great to be with you once again, Sam. And this is very important for our communities to tune into. and to be informed and educated about everything from schizophrenia, excuse me, to bipolar disorder. There are a whole host, a spectrum of mental health challenges that people face, sometimes unknowingly. And it's up to us as their neighbors, as their family members, to try to navigate them to the help that they need. And I want to encourage everyone to do so.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Congresswoman Yvette Clarke.
So today on Young Academic Achievers, we are highlighting Miss Asia Mottley. I'm so excited to have you today, Asia.
Hi.
So I have heard some amazing things about you. You are an exceptional and stellar academic student. You are in the 90 percentile. You are focused. You are really excited about your academics, and you're doing really well. And so we're really happy to have you with us today. So please tell me a little bit about you, your drive, what inspires you to do so well in school, and tell us a little bit about what you like.
My whole entire life, my mom was telling me that I have to be great because I am great. So I implicated that into my schoolwork. Like if I got something below an 80, I would always like freak out quietly. So that helped me reach where I am now. My passions, I like reading, writing, painting, and drawing. It helps me focus and see the world differently.
Nice, nice. So tell me a little bit about some of your accomplishments. Like, what are your favorite subjects? Where do you really get driven, and where's your passion?
My favorite subjects are history and science, more specifically global history. I'm interested in global history because it tells us the events, it tells the events of the past and how we got to the future, well, the present, and how we are going to get to the future. And I like science because I feel like it's one of the most hands-on studies, and like learning how things are always interested me.
Nice. So tell me a little bit about who are some of the people that have inspired you to, like a teacher, your mom? How do you get to the habits that you've gotten to in order to really succeed in these subjects?
My sister inspired me because when I was little, I always like followed her and like watched her, because like now she's in college and like she's still trying to figure out what she wants to do, but she has she knows what she wants to do as she's trying to figure out what to do specifically. So I always try to have that mindset. Another person who inspired me is my teacher, Miss Hicks at Explore Charter School. Like she's from Barbados just like me. So she always like tried to put the West Indian learning style into how she taught me.
And how did that make a difference? What did that style bring to you that enhanced your learning and your passions?
Well, since she taught me as a Bayesian, since I live in a Bayesian household, her style of teaching resembled my mother and my father teaching me and like being there as I grew up. So it helped me focus more and like try to like do better in my schoolwork.
Okay, so taking this passion for science, taking this passion for history, taking the support and the mentoring from your sister, looking at your sister, your mom, your teacher, and just how you have done so well in school, what would you say to your peers as you are figuring out your own next steps? What would you say to inspire young people who are watching us today, who are listening to you and saying, well, you know, she did well, but what did it take for Asia to do so well? And how are you going to bring all of these things together? And what are your intentions in your own life as you create a space in the planet for you with your name on it?
What I have to say to my peers is that even though school can be kind of boring sometimes, you need to find the most interesting parts and like try to use that to use in all your in all your classes, and like, yeah, and use what you learn in your classes to take it out into the real world, because that's where everything changes, and that's where majority of your life is going to be like after school. So yeah.
And what does Asia want to be when Asia actually steps out into this platform called the world? What is the footprint that you are going to leave?
I want to be a film director because I want to use what I learned to like say it to the world and like make my mark. Like, I don't need to be some big time famous film director. I just need some people to watch what I'm trying to create. So,
Well,
yeah.
Wouldn't that amount to being a big time film director? I mean, you are a woman, a young woman, and I'm so inspired by you. I'm really excited about your future. Keep on doing the amazing things that you're doing. Keep on using your voice. Keep on inspiring your peers. And I'm excited to see what Asia Mottley is going to be as you step out into the world. Asia, it's been an amazing time with you. Thank you so much for coming and joining us at Brooklyn 45 for Young Academic Achievers segment. And I'm really, 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 really excited about seeing you on the screen someday and saying, I interviewed this young lady when she was in high school, and I'm excited to see what's going to happen next.
Thank you, Camella, and to our viewers, we thank you for watching Brooklyn 45. And on behalf of our team, this is Brooklyn 45, I'm Sam Taitt.
Brooklyn 45 is a 501c3 not-for-profit, and we welcome your support. Check out our website, brooklyn45.com, and feel free to donate or share it with your friends and family. Have any comments or questions? Send them to our Facebook, facebook.com/Brooklyn45TV. If you have any questions or topics you think we should cover next, shoot me an email over at brooklyn45tv@gmail.com. Thank you again for watching.